Or would you let John Hagee be over defense if you were in charge? Jeez. We've been bamboozled, folks. Kind of like my buddy Paul when he found out that Barry Manilow didn't really write the song, I write the songs. So let's talk about solutions. The first solution is dramatic. I want you to consider this. Think. Think differently. I'm going to break these out to pieces so you can remember, okay? So here's an example. The left has trained us to believe the media. Oh yeah, they did. You may not believe them now, but they trained you to believe them. In the past, anybody here old enough to remember Walter Cronkite? Yeah, that's usually true of most of the audience of the speech. Oh yeah, Walter. You played hockey with him. But yeah, so I grew up, I watched Walter Cronkite, and he was God in the media. I mean, he was everything Walter Cronkite said, my grandparents were like, hey, Walter Cronkite said it, it's believable. And that's the way it was. But he even ended the news with something like, and that's the way it is. Didn't he? Something like that? Probably just like that. I'm pretty good with voices. But yeah, so he ended the news with, that's the way it is. And it was definitive. He didn't have to go to the internet. Al Gore hadn't invented it yet. So. And then the anchor people after him, you kind of respected it, and it just slowly started to dwindle a little bit. Dan Rather was next, right? Yep, somebody said Dan Rather. Dan Rather's the guy that said he couldn't sow watermelons and they cut. Did you remember that? We were talking about Obama. He couldn't sow watermelons and they cut the feet. Chris Matthews cut him off. I wanted him to finish that so bad. What do you mean he couldn't sow watermelon? But yeah, so. There was Rather, and I believed Rather for a while. Walter Cronkite was a Democrat. I didn't know that. Yeah. So, you believe the media because it was sort of, maybe it was unbalanced. Black people didn't like the media back then because we were always depicted as crooks and pimps and whatever else. And that was the little thing going on in our, kind of in our culture, but we still believed Walter Cronkite. If he said the black guy did it, the black guy did it. Simple as that. So we had a healthy respect for the media until the media began to lose its mind. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is I got a note from a lady to my Facebook page, which I have admins that do a lot of work for me. People are like, Kevin, you're up 24/7. And I was, yeah, I am, man. I got admins to do that stuff. And they posted a story about something and it wasn't, complete. We don't vet this stuff. You guys send stuff and we'll say, oh, hey, here it is, check it out. We don't try to become, I didn't go to journalism school. Good. Yeah, exactly. I think that's a plus. But I didn't. And so we post stuff, most of it's snarky, just funny, crazy stuff. Like Obama shooting from the Dukes of Hazzard car. You guys saw that? Our work. Thank you very much. But we lampooned it because the White House said don't do anything with this picture. So we immediately just started photoshopping it. We put him in like the gay flag panties. You guys think I'm kidding? We did it because we were challenging him. Yeah, fine. You want to arrest me for a picture of Obama? I'd like to see that fly. So we started lampooning it. But anyway, this lady was upset because we posted something and it was just a forward. So people ask me all the time, Kevin, there's a conspiracy theory about so-and-so. Will you forward it? And I was like, yeah, I'll post it out there for you. It isn't my words, but if you want to get a voice, I'm going to give you a voice. So we did that. And this lady, Kevin, you're ruining it for us. She's just good after me. Supposedly a good, solid conservative lady probably was. And she's trying to hold me to this media standard, the ethics of journalism. And I'm like, I didn't go to journalism class for a reason. Because it's like, well, I'm not a lawyer. You don't have to believe me. If I give you legal advice, it has a disclaimer to it. Don't believe it. It's just my opinion. But the point is this. It is not my obligation to vet my news or to vet what I do or whatever. Because let me tell you something, folks. They ain't doing it. They take all the oaths They take all the journalistic creeds and all the ethical stuff and they disregard it. They throw it out the window. So my attitude is, you know what I do? I require you to, what was that first thing I told you? Think. And then the second thing is I want you to think differently. I don't want you to think the way they've trained you to think. They trained you all the way up to the moment that they started psyching you out. They wanted you to believe they had your back. That we are really going to be good journalists and we're going to find out where Obama's birth certificate is. We're looking into Benghazi. He's over with Bend Over. Your prison mates. Y'all look at that on the way home. Or Fast and Furious. We'll get back with you. Hey, by the way, speaking of Benghazi, you want to know a little dirty secret about Benghazi? You know the name Johnny Carson? I ain't talking about white Johnny Carson. You know, late night with Ed McMahon. Here's Johnny. I ain't talking about him. I'm talking about black Johnny Carson, who was over the Bureau of African Affairs, who reports to Hillary Clinton in the marketing department for America. His responsibility was for Africa. Has his name come up at all? No. You might want to look into that. Johnny Carson, spelled Johnnnie like a chick, is a black dude. Now, why is it that the black dude who was in charge of Africa hasn't been asked to testify or do anything when he is the direct person responsible, supposedly, for Benghazi? I theorize that these two metrosexual black guys need a white woman with cankles to protect them. That's just my theory. Back to the media. So I'm a novice. I'm not held to a standard. I like wallowing in the mud as long as the mud is fresh. And I told this woman, I have no obligation to be the media to you. My only obligation to you is to give you a backbone and to make you think, and you go do your own investigation and you find out what you believe. The media wants to tell you what to do, and they've been doing that for decades. And that's how you got to where you got. The reason why I didn't is because I quit believing them. That's what happens when you're a kid whose mother dies at 5 years old. You don't believe jack. Somebody says, I'll be back. You're like, yeah, like my mom. Yeah, that was a little deep, isn't it? But it's real. Because you just quit believing your eyes and you start looking at things through a whole different set of lenses. So congratulations if you follow me and you use your brain. So the mainstream media wants you to believe that Obama is a gun enthusiast. Do you know the theory about that shot? Have you seen the picture? Do you know the theory about that?
Fake.
It's fake. Yeah. I'm telling you, they're saying that was completely photoshopped. They have experts looking into, I've never seen a shotgun discharge that way. They have the puff of smoke this way, they get one this way. Like it was some amateur, somebody's never shot a gun. Let's just give it a lot of smoke. Have it come out the side. Have it come out of Obama's ears. This is crazy, man. Yeah, but and believe it, and here's the other thing. They said that the photo was classified. Seriously, from what? Will we be was it like a UFO? It was so devastating that Obama picked up a shotgun and it had to classify it. That's how crazy this country has gotten, people. Jeez. So one of my buddies, we were talking about this, and here's what we do. We do everything backwards now in this country. Do you know that? Instead of approaching gun control from a legal point of view, which that's what we should do. We should approach it that way. We always look at it from this illegal point. Oh, the assault rifles are killing people like crazy. Like they're just jumping up and the assault rifle just, ooh, if it's in your closet, man, let it know you're coming home. Hey, assault rifle, entering the room. Don't go crazy. And tell the bullets, assault bullets. Let the assault rifle know I'm a home. We've gotten so twisted. Look, if you approach it from the 84, because we did a graphic that said, today, 84 million gun owners killed nobody. How about approaching immigration from the legal point of view instead of the illegal point of view? We always look at the other side. By the way, back to the assault rifle thing, I was talking to some liberals I filmed at a black barbershop. And we were talking about assault rifles, and I'm not going to bore you with the details, but essentially I said, anybody have any, want to guess at how many assault rifle things deaths there were last year? And everybody's guessing, $20, $50, $100, $2 million. And I said it was 323. And they were like, really? And I said, yeah. And I said, and there were 497 people killed with hammers. True stat. A hammer is more deadly than an assault rifle when you look at it statistically. Well, why are we talking about this? Because the liberals want your guns. But it's more than just getting your guns. They want you. They want your freedom. Right now, if all of you work and you gave 100% of your money to the government could not pay its bills. 100%. Actually more. It's well past it now. How about we approach this immigration and say, you know what, we're going to deal with the people who did it right. They lined up, they paid their, get their visas renewed, they pay their fees, they're in this country, they have to go back home in order to make it legal and all that. How about we deal with them before we start dealing with the trespassers? Crime we deal with from a criminal's point of view. Oh, they're dads. It's so sad, they're families. But the liberals have created this system. I want to deal with crime from the victim's point of view.
Yes.
Now, that seems like a novel thing to look at. How about we approach taxes from the taxpayer's point of view instead of the losers and the thieves that steal your money? You ask yourself, folks, when did America flip? When did logic flip? My friend Hassan, he said, we were talking and he said to me, President Obama says if I had a son, he would think long and hard before he'd allow him to play football. And Hassan said, ironic when you consider that he intends to allow your daughters, into combat. You see the irony? You see what happens when you think? You think Malia and Sasha are ever going to hold a weapon in combat? Do you think if Obama had a son, he'd do anything except go get his nails done and a pedicure? Get his eyebrows waxed too. I want you to consider the evolution of Obamacare for just a second. We were talking about this at dinner too, because I love concepts. So you started the business years ago, and you made widgets. And you were making, the best widgets in the world. I use buggy whips as an example, but it doesn't matter, whatever you want to make. So you're making your product, and somebody else pops up a competitive thing across the town. You're like, doggone that Jim Bob. So he's now competing against you. And Jim Bob's doing it better because, I don't know, maybe he hired a couple of black dudes. And a Mexican in case somebody wants to get after me. So anyway, Jim Bob's making a product, and so you go, well, and all your employees want to leave, and they're like, hey, we're going to Jim Bob because he's more diverse. So anyway, you say, no, I'll tell you what, I'll give you health insurance. And you go, oh, really? Yeah, I'll give you health insurance. So he gives you health insurance, and you go, I'll stick around. And then Jim Bob says, I'll give you health insurance too. And I'll pay 100%. And so you got to up yours from 90 to 100, and he adds child care, and you add dental and vision, and y'all are just duking it out, right? And then the government steps in. And the government goes, you know what? All these benefits are now mandatory. Now, you were just making widgets, trying to be competitive. And the government steps in and says, now you must provide that. It's no longer an option, what we used to call a benefit. It's not a benefit now, it's an entitlement. Do you see how government does this? Iteratively, little by little. That's how they've gotten us. So I do want to talk some solutions, folks. And we'll cover some of this in Q&A. But one of the programs that we're doing is a program called the 100,000 Black Ambassadors Program. And what it is this, an audience like this, Tea Party, grassroots folks, conservatives, Republicans, all over the country, we're asking them to go hit the 100,000 black businesses that are part of the National Black Chamber of Commerce and just support them. Just go have lunch over at Big Willie's Barbecue. It's good barbecue. Get the pork sandwich. But just go there and have a meal and get to know that entrepreneur, that ambassador. Because he's got an average of 8 employees that have heard nothing except bad things about you. Wrongly. But liberals don't care. You could do all the best. You could take a liberal into your home, feed him, clothe him, bring his family over from Cuba. It wouldn't matter. He's still going to talk mess about you. That's the way they are. They're programmed that way. It's in their DNA. So the point is, you get this black business and you get to know that entrepreneur. You thank him for his capitalism. So that's step 1 of the program. And the second part of it is we're going to give him an intern. We're going to find a black student at a historically black college, university, or just a regular college, at a white college. At a historically white college. And we're going to map that young potential capitalist to an existing capitalist and start our own little conveyor system of capitalism. And I'm going to tell you, in 2 years, they're going to have a real tough time saying bad things about you. So that's the program. I'm going to close with this because I'm getting into the Q&A time, and I know how Howard is. He watches, he's a clock watcher. He's probably got the hook coming. But we're a snarky group, as you guys know. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this. It's the 150th year since the Republicans officially freed the slaves. Are you aware of that? It's the sesquicentennial. Yeah. So we created these graphics, and that we took these very prominent black liberals, and we said, you know, because the Republicans freed the slaves 150 years ago, Harry Belafonte doesn't have to pick bananas at some white guy's banana plantation. Or Barack Obama doesn't have to get Bill Clinton coffee. And so we're running these on the new website, which is theblacksphere.net, in order to just piss liberals off. That's what I do best. Anyway, thank you for your time, folks. God bless.
For Q&A, and while we're passing out the cards for Q&A, or should be around here passing them around, and while you're doing that, I would like to present to Kevin Jackson a certificate of our deep appreciation for everything he's done and for coming out here and helping to educate us.
Makes up for that $10 that he didn't charge y'all. Hey, Brian Sussman, did you get one of these? Yeah. Where's Brian? Oh, he took off.
Here's a question. You indicated you were optimistic. What is going to happen in order to get us on the right track? When will it happen? When?
Read the first part again, I'm sorry.
You indicated you were optimistic. What is going to happen in order to get us on the right track?
Ooh, that's a deep question. What's going to happen to get us on the right track? It really starts with you guys. When I first started blogging, I'll tell you a quick story. I'd get all these liberal trolls, and they would just, Kevin, you're a sellout, Uncle Tom, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, they were cursing at me and all kinds of stuff. And I would get on, and I would just go right back at them, equal and, just a little bit over the top, So if they cursed at me, I cursed back at them. If they, you know, talked about my mother, I talked about their mother and their father. You know, it was just a little bit extra to get them. And I would be up till 4 o'clock in the morning. You know, and so when we were growing the blog, a lot of the folks that were working with me said, hey, Kev, you know what we ought to do? We should do some stuff and go over to the Daily Cost or Huffington Post, and we'll, you know, we'll go stir up some mess and get all, you know, we'll get our blog to just keep growing, the numbers to grow. And I go, don't do that. You know, I got only so many hours in the day. I can barely handle the trolls that I get. I said, let me build the backbones of some of these white folks out there, and then they'll start commenting, and that's exactly what happened. The people that followed me started getting stronger and stronger. They would say things like, Kevin, man, I can't believe you said that. That's the way I feel. And I'd say, then say it. And so then they'd start saying it on there, and they'd go back and forth with somebody, and you know, they would go great. But here's the thing: if you're not a racist, don't act like one. It's that simple. You know, so they would call me Uncle Tom, whatever. I'd say, shut up, pedophile. And they would, oh, I can't believe you call me a pedophile. I go, well, you like the ACLU, and they support NAMBLA and all this, and if you're going to shoot fence, you know, if there's a duck and it's quacking, you know, I mean, just on and on. And then these guys would just, their heads would spin, and they forgot that they actually called me an Uncle Tom. But that was what I was doing. You know? That's what you do. Hey, little doggy. And they go for it. So that's what you do. And being honest, that's, you know, look, guys, I grew up in Greeley, Texas. In my first book, The Big Black Lie, I talk about it was the way the town was carved out. The blacks lived in the south, the whites lived in the north, I lived on the ranch. It's the truth. And right below the south, the southern line, were the Hispanics that weren't quite wealthy, and the ones that are north of the line were the ones that had a little more money. And that's how Greeley, Texas broke out. But it wasn't, it was just really economics. And I learned that. And, you know, so, honestly, I kind of forgot the point of what I was telling you this. Okay, here's what I learned. What we did every weekend, white, black, Mexican, and the one, we had a half Japanese guy and half white. They were the only Asians that I knew of in town, admitted Asians, I guess. By the way, I am openly black, in case anybody's wondering. Came out 3 years ago. But we would just go right up and down the drag. We drink our beer. We'd sit, you know, if you've been in a little town, you know what right up and down the drag is. You go to the lumber. We had like an Ace Hardware. We sit in the parking lot, drink beer, and you know, chewing tobacco and spitting and talking smack. And you know, every now and then somebody would run up, you know, go fast down the street, and the cop would get them down the way. It was nothing, but it was fun for us, and we all did it. And nobody cared about race or any of the other stuff. And I know this in my heart, in my core, that this country is not racist at all. Not at all. There's an element, hey, you can clap to that. But there's an element to it, but we'll figure out how to coordinate that clap next time. But there's an element of racism, but you know, that's what liberals do. Where's the element? Like when I argue, did anybody see my debate with, what was his name? David Schuster? So I was on MSNBC, and they said, they tricked me because they said I was going to talk about the Quinnipiac report, which is just statistics on the Tea Party. And long story short, they tried to ambush me with the Republicans were bombing Democrat offices, and the Tea Party was racist. That was the subterfuge. So long story short, he's showing all this stuff about, here's what he says to me. Republicans are bombing Democrat, buildings and stuff, polling places or whatever else. And then he says, what do you think about that? We're going to cut to Kevin Jackson, author of The Big Black Lie. And he cuts to me with that as my intro. And so he says, what do you think about that? And I said, well, you don't have any evidence about that. And I go, why should I believe you? I said, Democrats have been blowing up their own stuff for years. Oh, that's not... You gotta watch it. You gotta watch it. That's just not true. And I said, okay, so when blacks destroyed their own property in Watts during the Watts riot, what was that? Was that a bunch of Republicans? And I didn't go into that detail, but and he went the whole time. So then he moves on to the Tea Party. And here's what he says. and this is a trap. Surely, Kevin, you can admit that there's at least one racist in the Tea Party movement. Now, is that a setup question or not? Because he's waiting for you to agree. So I said, I won't admit to that, but I will admit to racism in the Democrat Party because they have lynched black people, and I know that for a fact. Anyway, take another question.
What do you think our country will look like after 11 million illegals suddenly become U.S. citizens? Will we ever secure our border, in your opinion?
Wow, well, what would a country look like with 11 million illegals being patriated? Well, it is coming because you don't have warriors fighting against it. And it was funny, when the election was over, the first thing Hannity said was, well, you know, maybe we do need to look at our positions and maybe look at illegal immigration or whatever. Okay, let me give you some things to think about. There is no such thing as illegal immigration, okay? There's immigration, and there's trespassing. It's the truth. Immigration is an official status of the State Department. So if you declare someone an immigrant, they can seek political asylum and all these other things. So when the left changed the lexicon from illegal alien to illegal immigrant, that was a slow boil for you. Because then they could patriate those illegal immigrants because they could say, when we get these guns shipped over to Mexico and all hell breaks loose and they don't have anywhere to go back to, we can now say we need to give them political asylum. And that was the plan. Now it got messed up because we found out about it. Shame on us. Dang, diligence. So now they have to do it differently. Now, what is the country going to look like? Well, we're going to be rolling our R's. And you roll your R's? Honestly, I don't have an answer to that. I think America, I'm against it, I'll put it to you that way, but I think America can absorb anything if you 60 million plus conservatives are willing to get out there and change the views of things. So what's funny when you look at problems, folks, is if you look at a problem in the macrocosm, a Democrat or a liberal will make you believe that it makes sense. If you look at it in the microcosm, it never makes sense. You would not listen. If you came home from this event and there was a Mexican or a Puerto Rican or wherever in your living room eating nachos, watching TV, you would have a conniption. So would every liberal in the country. But they're okay with them coming into your backyard, known as America, and doing the same thing. They never correlated. Now the question you should ask yourself is, why can't we sell such a simple concept? Because your people don't want to fight for you. They want to tiptoe around it. Oh, Marco Rubio's saying, I don't care. Marco Rubio can be the darling of America for all I care. If his stance on immigration is flatly wrong, and I will say it again for him. If it's Alan West, if it's Sarah Palin, you got to be able to stand up and say, I don't agree with that, and I'm going to fight against it, and there's no lobbyist, there's no money that's going to make me change my stance on that. Anyway, I don't know if that answers the question.